Dude, I can't believe that Adrian... No way. Not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She is your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was... well, her. And why are we still talking as if the knife is the murder weapon? Seriously. So after the ceremony during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. By the way, considering the gravity, or the gravitational pull, you'd think his hair would fall out of his face, but of course we can't do that because spoilers. See, so she could have also easily planted the blood-covered button in your hakama. Cause she was the one that came to wake me up? Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she's the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Corrida. I hope those words won't come bite you in the ass. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Don't we all? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of today. Liar. Get me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix, you think her motive is related to Celeste Impax's missing suicide note? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impax for her strength and will to live. But then Miss Impax suddenly killed herself. It sounds like she left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Corrida, the victim of this murder. Can somebody please tell me why Ace Attorney thinks they have to retaliate and repeat every information they give me about 5 times every 15 minutes, in case I don't remember? Was this game made for Alzheimer people? And that's why I think that Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Corrida. All to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about the relationship? Better state it, Mr. Andrews's? Mia! Don't spoil the potential problem that Dikila will have later on. And I mean much later on. It was Edgeworth. Edgeworth is fighting on our side for us. It looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. He is always in command. Don't let your guard down yet.
Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please.
The prosecution calls the witnesses subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan Corrida's room. I hate it when they do the Mr. and the full name. Unless it's Franziska, it's annoying to read. I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Ongard.
I see. Now then.
Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request.
Yes, sure. What is it?
I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently.
Oh, no, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossipland.
If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. All the witnesses do your work for you. You're just so stupid that it takes you way too long to figure things out. I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Corrida. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. I think you have to be living under a rock to not know about that by now. But this was a private matter between Juan and myself. Honey, if you want people to stop gossiping about you, don't ever mention the word private. They're like hyenas on a word like that. For some reason, I don't know, it's none of their fucking business.
So it was a fry and bait matter. Or was it a bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing.
But I didn't kill him. No one has accused you of that. Yet. I've got a feeling someone will soon. Damn it! She has found out my secret plan!
I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews.
Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene as in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice.
You poured yourself a glass of juice?
Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember to not touch things at the scene of a crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. Considering she poured herself a glass, wouldn't her fingerprints also be found on the bottle of the tomato juice?
I see. Well, Mr. Wright,
stop telling me I can cross-examine the witness. You know, I bet a fifth of the game is just basically telling me you may cross-examine the witness. I see. Could you please repeat that? Continue with your testimony and stuff like that. No need to tell me that. Phoenix. She is one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yes, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pace. Disrupt her pace? She's the type of woman who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking. So you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you lap out on your fence is the instant this trial is over. Understand? By the way, yes, let's see if I can get through this part of the trial and more of the game with just that bit of life bar left. I think the only psychologues to come up are two very difficult ones, so I don't really have any other means of healing. And I don't really feel like using the cheat. And what was Mr. Ongar doing at the time? He was taking a nap. He was worn out from the mini-performance as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. Ongar did say he was taking a nap. That certainly reminds me of Mr. Will Powers telling me the same thing in case 1-3. Then I guess you could say it could not have been taken out of his room, right? Excuse me? It? What are you... Right, I thought years of school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. No, my brain good thinking with stuff and yes. If you can't make a sensible sentence with a subject, then I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. Ongar's knife from his room? No. Subject, verb, object right. Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue. And why did you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was to make an appearance with the other heroes. So the show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? Is that the only reason? I beg your pardon, what are you implying? You had a certain goal in mind when you started to get close to him, correct? So perhaps you had a more personal matter to discuss with the victim? sorry, but I didn't have any such intentions in mind at that time. I can't get her to talk without a strong piece of evidence, I guess. You were in shock? What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. And despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Corrida. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Why are you calling her a beauty? Her hair isn't as puffy and beautifully wavy along framing your face like yours. She doesn't compare to you, Edgeworth. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too? Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then, what did you do next, witness? Juice? Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? Huh? There were no lip marks left on the wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. Maybe she drank from it like people do at times. They hold the cart really high up and they just pour it down into their open mouth? It can be done. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down, without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Corrida, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at that time. Your mind was a complete blank? I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing. What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What were you starting to say just now? Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry. It's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over.
Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime scene?
It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess.
It looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to your testimony.
I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. Well, she says onto the guitar case, which is correct, since if it falls onto the case, it's only the outside that gets wet. But, well, you testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct? Yes. And are you sure it fell onto the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem, it's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. However, if that were true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside.
That's very true.
Furthermore, there is one other strange thing about this guitar case.
And what is that?
Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor.
And what is wrong with that?
If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, the glass shard should be inside, not outside the case. Some should be on the inside, not all of them. What is your point, right? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over? Is that all? No, think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else.
Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say she didn't touch the guitar case.
No, she implicitly said that the guitar case was already open and empty when she came into the room. Yes, that was a lie, but she didn't say that she hadn't touched the guitar case. The bright red guitar was found in the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all. That may very well be, however, an empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case.
It seems that there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about the guitar case?
The empty guitar case, I believe it's a crucial piece of the puzzle. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this. But it is you. Oh, burn! I can't believe I'm doing this either. I still can't believe it's not butter.
I'll follow along, for now.
I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know.
It looks like this really wasn't a very important point.
This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. Using anyway to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man. During your testimony just now, did you remember those events clearly in your mind? Well, you see... Are you sure you're the one who opened the guitar case? She's waiting for someone to tell her if she should answer or not. Her codependency is coming through, huh? You know, this reminds me of that therapy line. If you're a codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you.
Well, Miss Andrews?
Yes, it was me. So, you opened the guitar case then? Yes. Well, maybe. Why did you open the guitar case? Huh? Mr. Corrida's dead body was right there in front of you, wasn't it? I would think that the first thing you would do is call for help, not open the guitar case. Phoenix, think of it like a semi-open safe. in a robbery case, or in a robber-murder case. You first check there to see if valuables were stolen. As the witness has said multiple times, when she found the body, she was dazed. Maybe I was curious to know if the bright red guitar was alright or not. I thought maybe the criminal took it. Why would she care about the bright red guitar? It's a valuable. But getting back on topic. Was it really empty? I was just wondering if maybe when you opened the case, the guitar was still inside. How long have you been a lawyer, Mr. Wright? Have a little professionalism. He's been one for about... When was the first case? In February? A little over a year? I'm guessing? 2 years? The bright red guitar was found at the studio. These trials would be over in half the time if you would just pay attention. They would be over in 3/4 of the usual time it takes if I was actually allowed to use my logic of not going from point A, staying there for 50 minutes, hearing the same thing over and over and over, and then going to point B, repeat until D. Instead, I could use my logic of going from point A, realizing the obvious hints, and going right to point D, and immediately ending this after like an hour in total, with no recesses.
Yes, pay more attention, Mr. Wright.
Sorry. Was that because you were shocked and dazed at discovering the victim's body? Yes, that's probably it. I'm not going to get anywhere if I continue pressing her like this. The only way to make her talk is with evidence. I guess I should give it a try. Come on, Phoenix. We can't afford to let up on her now. I wasn't planning on letting up, but... she's at her weakest now, so this is our chance. Yeah, if we had a weapon to hit her with... we would be on trial next. I'm sure a weapon is hiding somewhere in the court record, waiting to be found. I think it was here that I had to point out that her fingerprints weren't on it, or was it on a previous statement? Let's give it a try here. If I see myself losing life, I probably am going to click the cheat button and get myself the infinite life bar just to heal up. There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. I'm intelligent because I quote the actual genius. Because the only fingerprints on this case are those of the victim.
What is it, Miss Andrews?
You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. I telekinetically opened it. What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time?
Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at the time?
It was the night of the awards ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. In the clothes that you're wearing right now, with gloves? Yes, now remember, I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves.
Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime.
You were wearing gloves? Isn't that a little strange? Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? I have your proof right here. This wine glass. The wine glass? You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange? That you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case. Phoenix, people who are shocked and dazed do strange things. Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. What do you mean? I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here. But it's just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though. But the bright red guitar was at the studio. Phoenix, drop all your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar. You could put something else into a guitar case except a guitar? You don't... It was a bright white guitar? Wait, that's not right either.
I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that.
Why did you not say this with the case of Edgeworth, shooting, putting other fingerprint hands onto the gun? Or all the other shit we're getting here?
So the witness was not wearing gloves despite the fact that on the case...
Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into misguided. No, Your Honor, please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it was wide open, this photo of the crime scene. I am sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, right, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please, enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything to do with this murder.
Can you do that, Mr. Wright?
Well... Let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case.
The bright red guitar not being the only thing? You don't mean to such that the bright black
So you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty? Is that it, right? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Really now? Deflate that head of yours, you haven't proven anything yet. What was inside this case at the time of the murder?
This is a photograph.
Yes, but what is important is what is in that picture, Your Honor.
In this picture?
It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I am proposing is that inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What?
Mr. Wright, explain yourself.
Right, are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Wearing a costume? That is insane. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct?
You mean this photo?
Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later.
So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume.
Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt Engard's. Why would something out of the defendant's be in the victim's room? I don't know, why was your cravat on Phoenix's bedpost last night? And inside the guitar case of all places.
True, that is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the crew would like to hear your thoughts. What was this Nickel Samurai doing inside the guitar case?
Mr. Engard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we are talking about is a spare one. What?
Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case?
It would mean that the victim himself had planned to bring the spare to the ceremony.
But why? The victim, Mr. Korida, was the German ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai's spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act?
Oh, so that's what he intended. Care to share your thoughts with the class, Phoenix? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue? Yes, he does that a lot. Eh? No, I just...
Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai spare costume?
Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer. And then answer with gusto. I believe in you. But I'm not your client. This is what I think. The reason the victim brought this Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was...
What is this?
On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference.
A press conference?
Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at his conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up right. Upright. But what struck me as strange was that Mr. Engard himself said that he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night.
But how can that be?
The way I see it, that can mean only one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Korida himself.
The victim?
Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Korida was going to hold a press conference as a Nickel Samurai.
But why would the victim do such a thing?
That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference. I'm pretty sure Engard is glaring daggers at you right now. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Korida, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Engard.
Yes, I guess that is what it would mean.
I can imagine the press conference happening. I, the Nickel Samurai, that is to say me, Matt Engard, me, myself, and totally I. You know, just keep going on and emphasizing that he is totally the Nickel Samurai in Engard. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's public disclosure.
Miss Andrews?
I can see why you're pros at what you do. If you think this is professional, you should see what real lawyers do.
Pardon me?
Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan. Shut up, peanut gallery!
Please offer us an explanation for this.
I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him, that was also me.
You?
Juan had bet everything on Jammin' Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway.
He was going to ruin him, huh?
It looked like somehow Juan had his hands on a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt Engart's acting career had it been revealed. What?
And do you know what the secret of Mr. Engart's is, Miss Andrews?
That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is.
I see.
I've probably been coming off pretty suspicious to everyone, but that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Mr. Engart?
And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him.
This does account for everything.
Well, I am the logical type. You're not logical, it is called analytical. And you're not that either. We're finally seeing her true self. She doesn't seem to be crying in a corner right now, Mia, so shut up. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit.
If there are no objections, I feel that I can pass a verdict based on this testimony. Mr. Wright, if you please.
Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn logic upside down. So wait, dear judge. If there are no objections, and you could pass a verdict right away, why are you allowing a cross-examination? If Phoenix objected and demanded to cross-examine her, then I would understand that the cross-examination is taking place. But since he didn't, why are you allowing this? Oh right, you're a moron. Would you say that was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. Ugh. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and decisive evidence. And if you think these things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix. You did go to law school, right? Because apparently you didn't, considering we had to explain this to you, explain what a cross-examination is, and that the fact that witnesses lie. They didn't teach that to us in school. At least, not from what I remember. That's it. I absolutely go with VGR's idea that Phoenix basically fucked his way through law school. He didn't go to any classes, anything. He just sucked and fucked until he got this supposed diploma that he needed. How else does he doesn't know about any of the stuff? May I continue now? So, would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes, Do you know why Juan chose that event and that hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause most damage to the public's beloved Matt Ongar.
And you know of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews?
Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference, prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Ongar himself didn't know anything about a press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? Well, we have his word, which I admit is just verbal and overall doesn't really stand for much. But considering this game does put value on witness testimony in later games, yes, if Matt Ongar actually went on the witness stand and testified that I did not know anything about a press conference, it would probably be seen as proper evidence. So shut up, Andrews. Anyway, the important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony.
Yes, I agree. Please correct your testimony if you please.
Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? Has Mr. Ongar done something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Corrida with his press conference. And that event was supposed to bring them Mr. Ongar, yet you still helped out. The person on trial right now is Mr. Ongar, right? What the witness was thinking, helping the victim with his plan, is none of our concern. Well, it could be a character witness part. If she had ill will towards Ongar, it could very well be that she wants to see him fry, which we know we do, but still. In any case, this means that the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? 'Cause you're a moron. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Ongar was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover Mr. Ongar? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. Thank you! A proper witness explanation of part of their testimony. She's absolutely right in saying that. That's what she saw? She doesn't know if that was the way the entire time? Great! Sad that it took me 8 cases to find this for once. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time.
I keep trying, but I can find no flaws with what Miss Andrews has said. I can't say the same for some people here in this courtroom, though.
The judge is glaring straight at Mia. He's glaring at you, smart guy. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. Yes! The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and the murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume.
You're talking about this button, correct?
That button was found at the pleats of Matt's hakama, isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence.
Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright.
Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Oh, believe me, if I was staring at Phoenix right now, it wouldn't be icy. It would be glacial.
For Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony.
And how do you know that? When the ends of the threads on the button and the costume matched up, they were found to fit together perfectly. Or so I heard. I've heard that before, too. But why would Miss Andrews know about this case down to such a fine detail? Don't look at me like that, just because I'm prepared and you are not. Zing! No, and I thought I had her this time for sure. If there's anything to trip her up on, it has to be here. But where and what? But what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? I thought you stabbed Corrida in the front. Unless I mean en garde, in which case it doesn't matter. And at the worst possible time, too. Who's to say she really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. En garde at any time. Why, then, would she wait until there was a large audience before doing so? It's the same reason why Mr. Corrida planned such an elaborate conference. Miss Andrews wanted to cause Mr. En garde as much damage as she possibly could. This witness bears ill will towards the defendant. This isn't the Phoenix Wright Wax Philosophical Power Hour. And please, stop slandering the witness. As I expected, Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Oh wait, that was not Mia. Screw it, we might as well let Mia say it, considering she's actually seems to be paying attention. Well, I guess we'll see if I press a little more. You should know this by now. But you'll need strong, decisive evidence to make her talk. Got it, Chief. I'm gonna pin you down this time, Miss Andrews. I'm gonna look through the testimony, this thing again. What if I press again? Do I get more information? Do I have to present the button? It's worth a shot. Nope. There. I just gave myself the life bar because I really don't feel like re-recording this entire thing. Nobody cares, Judge. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. Yes?
And what does that mean?
Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume when? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly. Which means it is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. Yes! So why did you people constantly refer to the knife as an actual important evidence piece? Or the murder weapon in the previous video? That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off of the victim's already dead body.
What?
What is the meaning of this, right? So what if the button was torn off of the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight, so the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it?
Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it?
There is only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Matt Engard. There's no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's right, Mr. Engard was set up. By the real killer, of course.
And the real murderer is? Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then?
Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Oh, believe me, you'll say that about 3 or 4 more times. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Engard. Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you. You are Mr. Corrida's killer.
Mr. Wright, this is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports the charge?
Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. How preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Matt Engard, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Engard was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence into his own hakama. By the way, I once counted that she goes for like 10 pairs of glasses in this case. The only person who could have put this button into Engard's hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is yet again you, Miss Andrews.
I see. What about the empty guitar case?
That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the scene. Who could have known that there was such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time.
That's right.
That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. I don't know, couldn't it be possible that if you open the clasps of a guitar case with a towel, that some fibers would stick to it? But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposefully left her fingerprints on the glass to show that yes, indeed, she was the classic day's discoverer of a dead body. And to top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this Nico Samurai is Mr. Ongard. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time.
Miss Andrews?
I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Doing that is generally a pretty bad idea, since it basically is you admitting that you have something to hide. Believe me, I will mention that in case 1-5.
You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination. By allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves.
What?! Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ongard's room. Adrian Andrews. Yes. Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood? Alright. That's it. That's when Franziska planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things look bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. There we go, the video caught up. But there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done. What's wrong? Right. Are you finished already? Run out of evidence?
What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth?
I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. We're 8 cases into the game, and now you say circumstantial evidence isn't good enough? It was good enough in all the other 7 cases to get the real killer, convicted, because all the time was only circumstantial. We proved that they could have done it. The only reason they actually got found out is because they always ended up confessing. Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definite proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Corrida. I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I'll abstain from answering.
But, Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think?
Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No, she's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should I do? Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation.
I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid, definite proof.
But that's not true!
In this situation, there's only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess.
Recess?
I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial...
Tomorrow's? We don't have a tomorrow! If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya...
But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court...
It is not impossible for this trial to continue.
Mr. Edgeworth, what are you...
It's true Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation were something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony.
Yes, that is very true, but...
Actually, there is one little thing that I'm curious about. Miss Andrews? When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes. And? I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually, when one finds a body, they're shaking up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to say that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we found out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know. Look, he's just being a little moody today. We can take care of it later.
The court acknowledges the prosecution's request, if you please.
That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over.
So you poured the glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony?
I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours? But there wasn't anyone else in the room, right? Of course not. Then who did you pour it for? Mr. Wright, there is a rhyme and reason for everything. Can you wait just a little longer for it to be revealed to you?
I don't have any longer, because then Maya will die.
Believe me, he's gonna sound like that in a few videos. In other words, Wright, be quiet and listen.
Precisely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, let's just skip that. Slumped over?
Yes, he was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. He really looked like he was sleeping.
Is it just me or did that right there sound a little odd? Then, what did cross your mind?
I thought maybe he had smashed everything up in anger because he lost the Grand Prix. And then felt tired after his rampage, so he decided to take a nap. Anyways, that's what I thought.
You thought he fainted?
I thought he was asleep at first. But then the room was in such a messy state. I thought maybe he had gotten into a fight with someone.
And that's when you went to pour the glass of juice?
Yes, he always had a hard time waking up. So Juan always had a glass of tomato juice to drink.
So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him?
No, not at all.
Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body?
What is the meaning of this?
Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Corrida's chest. Hurry up, video! You were doing so well earlier. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man.
That's... well, you see...
I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted, and then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink.
Your point is?
Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer.
It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matongal, is not guilty after all.
But that's impossible. You're wrong.
Miss Andrews, try to have some composure.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt. I swear, he's the one who killed Juan.
But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself.
That's because...
Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you?
I refuse to testify.
Well, honey, you're kind of in a paradox. If you don't testify, we're gonna think you do it. If you do testify, you're still gonna be seen as a liar, so really, one thing or the other.
Mr. Matt Ongel's innocence has been clearly demonstrated.
Is it over? I wish.
Have we found the truth at last?
What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't.
Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Engard.
Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time.
What?
The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth.
The absolute real truth? What are you...
Witness, don't you understand yet? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Engard will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party.
That's a lie. I don't believe you.
What?
I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Franziska von Karma. Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another. Because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself.
Then, right now, Miss Andrews...
Yesterday she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Engard will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undying believes in those words right now and is clinging onto them.
Then what should we do? You know, if Adrian clings onto the words of a very self-confident woman, then she should see me next to Phoenix in court. She would be lapping at my shoes. This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get her not guilty. That is my only priority.
It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me. I didn't kill Juan.
I really want to slap some sense into Adrian. If you don't want to be seen as guilty, testify. Even if you think Matt won't be charged guilty for that, it's better than you being seen as guilty. I'm not going to voice your whimpering, you weak person. God, if there's one thing I hate, it's a weak, helpless person.
The court can't continue on like this, therefore I'd like to hear what you intend to do.
What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right, I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did, and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime.
Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there. Right?
Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright?
I don't know, does it really matter here?
You know what? I'm going to save here. 'Cause I want to see what happens if I do either.
No matter what she says, Miss Andrews is the only person it could be. Not to mention, I don't have a choice. I have to win a complete acquittal by today.
Your Honor, the defense believes there is enough evidence to substantiate our claim. Therefore, we motion that this court passes the victim of not guilty as soon as possible. I'm disappointed in you, Wright. What have you learned in this past year?
That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth.
Such a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this, however...
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. So, that was another moment where testifying or choosing to just get a verdict makes no difference. Sometimes I feel like I should play through the game and count the times where the multiple choice is actually worth something. I bet it's about 10 or less. Maybe even 5 at most.
Mr. Edgeworth?
This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. Quick off topic. Technically, Edgeworth is not allowed to reveal this, unless he got permission from her doctors to reveal it. Because while it is important as a point to prove the mental health of a potential suspect, until she is officially charged, he should not be allowed to reveal this. Unless, once again, the doctors have given him permission to reveal this. And because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I am about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. The secret of her codependent nature. Isn't it codependent with all E's? At least that's the way I always spelt it, and I never got to underlining that it was wrong. By the way, a lot of people say that they hate Edgeworth for this part. I absolutely love him for this part. Sure, he's an asshole about it, but at this point, about this case, I feel like the end justifies the means. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. If you're going to say you would choose death, that is of no concern to me. Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your breathing lips. No matter what I have to do. So will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk. Nothing matters anymore. When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted. Honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume.
Stab the body with a knife? But why would you do that?
Come on, OBS, we are almost done with this part. Even if it's taking way too long. Jump already! Thank you! Jeez. 42 seconds of a freeze. Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person. A certain cowardly man. More of a coward than you are.
What do you mean by all of this?
It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth.
The real killer is Matt, that scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time.
Last time? So Miss Andrews stabbed the victim Juan Corrida in the chest with a knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt Ongaard for the murder, which totally excuses Leichenschändung. You know, defiling a corpse. And this is her crime. What? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer?
Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination.
Why do I have to cross-examine her about this? But you could tell from the state the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you saw that you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. But that scarf is a part of the Jammer Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up, and went to pour the juice. What is this plan you had?
I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Juan, he was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt.
So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button.
The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife.
That was so you could get the knife, correct?
The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime.
So, you were the one to stab the victim with that knife?
It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect.
So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and then plant it in Mr. Ongaard's hakama?
Yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they?
An inconvenience?
There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway. I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lotta. There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth.
That's Miss Oldbag for you.
I had already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again.
You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you?
Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the award ceremony.
You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct?
Yes, Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there.
And what is this secret?
That I don't know. I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, then people would say that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful to not leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume.
I think we've heard enough.
By the way, as I said previously, if she used a towel to open the guitar case, fibers might have been stuck. Ditto on the fingerprints. If there were so many fingerprints on the knife, then the towel would probably have smudged them a bit. Or rubbed them, or again, something could have gotten stuck there.
So you went back to Mr. Ungar's room and planted the button?
Into Matt's hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it.
My word, what does all this mean?
Mr. Edgeworth? The real criminal is Matt Ongard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk.
On Cisco, huh?
She said that I should under no circumstances confess to what I had done. That if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty. I had no choice but to believe in her words.
What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she's not the real killer.
Wait, Your Honor. The defense... Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything.
Exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish that the victim was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright.
But...
Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning.
Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately.
That's all. Court is adjourned for today.
Today's trial is over. I didn't win an acquittal. Witness, would you mind if I asked you something? Edgeworth?
What is it?
Before you leave court today, I wonder if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand. It had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it?
This? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remembered. I found this in a room on that day.
The room? That day?
Yes. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying right there next to him.
You found that card next to the victim's body?
I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right?
Yeah, I guess not. But it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see what... Witness! That card, give it to me! Hurry! Edgeworth? Do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done? I can't believe you hid this from me all this time.
I didn't mean to.
What is this all about? I've never seen such an emotional Edgeworth in my entire life. He always withholds emotion from our nightly activities. That card, what in the world is it?
What does it mean? And how come Edgeworth didn't ask Andrews to testify about it or answer where it came from if he was intrigued about it? God, at least this part is over. And there's so much more to go.